Welcome, everybody, to another behind the scenes interview. This time we are chatting with Erinn, who is a sexual wellness coach. Do you refer to yourself as a sex therapist? Are you a
Yeah.
sex therapist? Yeah, a sex
Yes.
therapist and wellness coach. So today we're going to talk a lot about stigma. We're going to talk a lot about Facebook ads and just how to do what you want to do and play within the rules of the social media to be able to really leverage the platforms so that you can, do what you need to do because the oftentimes stigmas conversations are the conversations that need to happen the most. So welcome, Erinn.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. Why don't we start and you can just share a little bit about who you are and what you actually do?
Absolutely. So my name is Erinn. My last name is Hoel. I'm a sex therapist and sexual wellness coach. And I work with women who are stressed out about low sex drive, low desire to help them lower the pressure. I call them sex expectations. Lower the expectations, lower all this pressure, the guilt, like all of the stress, and increase desire and increase connection and increase intimacy and just have more pleasurable experiences.
And did you do that before you moved online? Did you do that in a clinical setting? Is this new for you?
Yes. So by trade, I am a sex therapist. And so one of the reasons why I am moving online in the first place is trying to catch people earlier. Because by
Mhm.
the time they end up in my office, like things are hopeless, relationships are falling apart. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be like that. So early intervention is really key. So that's why I have shifted how I am trying to offer services.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And did you have any hesitations to going online?
So many. So many. It was uncharted territory.
Mhm.
And I don't know shit about the tech and how to build an online business. Luckily, my sex therapy practice is online. So I had some of that information, but how to build a whole online world, I had no idea how to do. So that was really
Mhm.
overwhelming. Knowing where to start and how to
Yes.
start that process was a lot.
I think it's really interesting because you said your sex therapy practice is online. I think a lot of people think that having a virtual practice is the same thing as having an online business. Do you want to, can you shed some light on the differences? Like, because it's not the same.
It is not the same. And I don't think I really realized how different it was until I was going through this process. That I feel like one of the things that stands out to me the most as being different is really like the marketing aspect and connecting with clients. Like for my therapy practice, I have modes of connecting with people in my like geographical region and things like Psychology Today, that kind of stuff. But in terms of connecting with people online when they're in a different place was really difficult. That
Mhm.
like they'll end up in my community but not be ready to take any action. For therapy, it's
Right.
different. So it's like a whole different
Yes.
beast
It's
sometimes.
actually really interesting that you say that. So when somebody books therapy, oh, this is so good. My mind is like literally reeling with thoughts right now. So when somebody books a therapy session, they are already at the painful point of needing to change. The pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of changing at
Yeah.
this point, right? They need to change, like they need to get out of pain. Whereas online, because we use paid advertising and organic lead gen, some people are at that point. We call those people low hanging fruit, right? Some people come into your world, they're a small percentage. Some people come into your world and within 2 days, 7 days are in your program and they're working with you. But the majority of the people that are going to come into your world are not yet at that place where they're ready to push the go button. They
Yeah.
need 30 more days, 45 more days of like pain, agitation, things like that to build trust, to know if this is the right thing in order for them to work with you. It's a really interesting difference that I never thought about that in the lead to client journey before.
Mm.
Like why somebody books a therapy session, right? They already did that whole should I go? Should I not go? Should I book it? Should I not
Right.
book it? You just didn't see it.
Right.
Right. Cause like you only get the call when they're in
Yeah.
like dire
We're not
straits. Like,
ready.
can I come in 5 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you mean you don't have an appointment today? Like, I can't wait until this can't wait until next week. And exactly what you said, it's like they come when it's almost too late.
Yeah.
Right. And I think for a lot of people, intervention in general is that way. It's rarely preventative. But that's a really interesting difference that I never thought of in terms of like the actual lead to client journey, right? Where you don't see them beforehand because you don't have an online community, right? You're not needing to do any lead gen because you either build your practice through referrals or you do community events or you advertise so that when someone searches and they're in that place and you don't, and the best, oh my gosh, my brain is like going wild right now. And you don't know how long they've had your number for. They could have hit that Psychology Today page 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't know it because you only get the call when they're in dire straits.
Right.
Right. Which is really, really interesting. And I agree with you. Like that is the biggest difference other than the coaching aspect. But the getting of the clients, right? We have to have a lead to client journey because by the time they're in that much pain, right? You need to be top of mind. And so we actually execute the nurture process versus just waiting for somebody to stumble upon your Instagram page because that's not how it works. And it's interesting because when somebody is Googling, sex therapist near me, right? And your Psychology Today page pops up or your Instagram page, like it's the same thing. Somebody's still Googling. They find you via a Google search or a referral. It's just the mechanism from the time that they find you to the time that they book is different offline.
Yes. And I don't see it offline.
Exactly.
And now I'm like, oh, I'm seeing it and the whole process is different. And it's exciting that I'm seeing it earlier, right? That early intervention is key, but it's different. Like that was a big adjustment. Yep. It's the online world.
Yep. Because you have to hold their attention until they're in dire straits.
Yes.
Yep. Or create a scenario where they feel really activated to take action now, right? And this is where, in your case, really educating them and really sharing the reality of early intervention, right? So like in your case, this is so interesting. In your case, getting them into your world early, right? When they first start experiencing whatever they experience in their relationships or by themselves or whatever it is, right? Getting them at that level, right? Which is a totally different headspace than have you not had sex with your spouse in a year, right? And so it's different points of the like readiness, right? And you want them in at that early stage. And then the marketing work happens to be about why early intervention is key and them enrolling in your program versus you need to fix your marriage. It's two totally different persistent painful problems. Like
yes.
It's different. Yeah. Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
okay.
opposite ends of the spectrum. Like
yes.
Too early, too late.
Exactly. And so you need them sort of like not too early, but like 30% in pain, right? Like 30%.
Knowing there's a problem.
Yeah. So that they're like, this is like not great, but it's not that painful. So they can like ignore it for a while. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about your ad because you have a word in your job title that Facebook does not, any social media platform does not like. Even when you are running reels on Instagram, you cannot say certain words. So how did you get around that for your ad copy?
Well, I first failed a bunch of times because that's how I learned these things. So I did it wrong and it got rejected. And I was like, okay, I can't use these words. I can't say sex. Apparently that's a very scary word. Yes. But then what I did is I got creative with the wording and I have a spreadsheet of probably like 40 or 50 different like euphemisms for sex and ways to say it, like the no pants dance and like doing the deed and all that kind of stuff. So
Like
I
nighttime,
worked in that
adult
kind of
nighttime activities.
exactly like the bedroom adventures, like
Yeah.
ridiculous stuff. But I worked in that stuff to get around the sense
Nice.
censorship.
Yeah. Okay. So you're running ads. And so who is your ideal client then?
So my ideal client is a woman who's married and they're in their 30s, have been in the relationship for a while, have had some big transitions like buying a house, maybe are family planning or having their first kid, but good, stable relationship. But this is the conflict point, right? Sex drive has dropped off. It's starting to cause tension. It's starting to cause conflict, and they're just not feeling connected to their partners anymore. It's almost like the honeymoon is over, right? Like that
Mhm.
7-year stretch or whatever they talk about, like that's kind of this window of time.
Yeah. And so, okay, go ahead and share your screen. And so I think it's also really important to note that I think we worked on it a little bit, if memory serves, like who the ideal client is. Um, because again, when we're talking about this range, right? You didn't want to work with people who were coming in like, my marriage is over. We haven't had sex in 2 years. Like, right? That could have been an ideal client, but you didn't want that. And so you picked your ideal client. And so they're going to go from your ad. Can we actually see your ad? And I love that you have a spreadsheet with the different,
Love my spreadsheets.
yeah, with the different names. And so what you see here on the screen are Erinn's tests. So she's running 3 different ad sets to what looks like 3 different audiences to see which audience performs best in terms of leads and cost per lead. So right now, your health and wellness is winning big time. So you can see it's $3.84 a lead. She's gotten 75 leads. Maybe this test has been running the longest. I'm not sure, which is probably why. And so these other 2, yeah. So this is interesting. So also it's right now as we're doing this, it's 2 days before Christmas. So ad costs are up. Especially for these 2 stores. Right? If we look at what the ads platform is, it's an auction. And so, advertising to Sephora, the people who like Sephora's page, and Zara also, I assume those companies are also running ads to their own people. At least I would hope that they are. And so this is what the dashboard looks like. How did you feel about running ads? Were you nervous? Like, what was that like for you?
I kind of felt neutral at first, that I
Mm.
figured that there would have to be some way to get out there a little bit more, especially because there's a lot of censorship around the language that I use.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, this is fine. I struggled at first because I was like, what the hell is all this shit? Like, there were so many different pieces. Like, it was so overwhelming. And just having conversations about here's the first thing you focus on, and then here's how you test it next, and really have it funneled down was so helpful because it's a lot at first.
It's a lot.
Once you get the hang of it, it makes more sense, but it's overwhelming at first, especially like I could not have done it on my own. I would have had no idea.
It is. It's the advertise and also this platform that Meta has. It's not intuitive. It's not an intuitive platform. Whereas like some of the other platforms, you just like click around and you can find things. This is not that. So you really do have to learn and understand what these things mean. Okay, so someone's going to go from your ad. Let's go to your lead magnet opt-in page. So they click on the ad inside of whatever social media platform. And so discover how to increase desire in a relationship without a complete overhaul of your life or thousands of hours of therapy. Yes. Yes. Get access to the I want to want more sex guide. Yes. Right. And so that's exactly who. So, and I love this language. I want to want more sex versus like save my marriage, right? Because that's a different ideal client. So this is really great. They will subscribe to it and then they're going to go to the thank you page. So you can click over there. Yep. Perfect. So then they're going to be invited to join the Facebook group, Lower Stress and Increase Desire for Women. which is great because it's starting to give an indication as to how to want more sex. Because if your nervous system is jacked, then you probably don't want to have sex. Because we are, biologically built that way, that if you're under a tremendous amount of stress, your body is not supposed to have a baby. So there you go. So they join the Facebook group and then the automations start. So how was it for you customizing the emails in the immediate response and the nurture and then 3 nurture emails?
It was actually pretty seamless. Like the templates were super helpful. I just kind of plugged in what the problem is, what the pain point is, kind of used language that my ideal client uses already. I think a benefit of this sex therapy practice is like kind of know how they talk about this stuff. So I use
Yeah.
that language, but it was really easy.
Good. Amazing. And have you run your webinar yet?
I have.
Okay. So after people subscribe to the email list, they get on your email list and they go into a Facebook group. And one of the challenges that practitioners and coaches have is that in between, when people start to get on your email list and you don't know what to write and you don't know what to say and you don't know what to post until you're ready to sort of register them for your webinar. So what did you do in between to support the people that are now in your audience?
Yes, so I send everybody a welcome message when they first join the group, depending on how they answer some of the intro questions. So I introduce myself, I welcome them to the group, I will send them posts relevant to whatever it is, like however they've described their problem, but I start the nurturing there. Like I
Yeah.
have posts there, I tag them in things, I like at everybody for my lives just to start having this conversation, to start them thinking about, oh, maybe it's not just the sex I need to focus on. Maybe it is the stress. Maybe I shouldn't wait, to just kind of start the wheels turning a little bit more.
Oh, I love that. Okay. And so let's see your webinar registration page. So you do content in your Facebook group, you're doing Facebook Lives to start that education to, like you said, get the wheels turning to be like, have you ever wondered why you don't want to have sex? Like I can tell you how to want to have more sex, but like, don't you want to know why you don't want to have sex? Like you should want to have sex. Um, and so 3 strategies to want to have more sex and actually enjoy it. So it's the same hook. It's the same hook that brought them in. One of the biggest mistakes that I see practitioners and coaches making is their ad is not congruent to what their lead magnet is or what their webinar is. And so then they get no registrants for their webinar because nobody that's not the painful problem that the ad was talking about. So we have to make sure that all the way through the ad is congruent. How was running your webinar?
Oh, I love the webinar. When I first started to create it, I was like, oh God, this is a lot. I've never just like sat and talked to anybody, like at anybody for an hour in my life. So I was like, what am
Yeah.
I going to say? But I love it. I think it's so much fun. I get to really dial into like, this is something I know a lot about and I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
And just be able to give that information to somebody in a helpful way is, I really like it.
Yeah. I also love doing the webinar. And I've obviously done my webinar a lot. And the more you do it, the more the more personality comes out because this is the subject matter, right? And the more they're responding back to you, and it really is a two-way conversation. And I love doing it. So they subscribe to the webinar, they show up to the webinar, and then from the webinar, they're going to book a call with you. So do you have your scheduler page?
I do. Oh, hold on.
That's
The
okay.
links in there.
Yep. So there we go. Exactly. So there's some call times on the 26th. Obviously not for the rest of the month because it's a holiday. And then it's the low desire consult. So every single thing is you can 1 degree track back to the persistent painful problem, right? Low desire, they don't want to have sex. That is the persistent painful problem. It's not that they're stressed out, right? Because that's not what they perceive it to be. And that would be, another mistake that we would walk through is, but it's stress. I'm like, yes, we know it's stress. That's the root cause. But what they would say their problem is that they don't want to have sex and they feel guilty about that. right? That's their problem. So we have to talk to them based on what their problem is. And sometimes it's easier to identify the persistent painful problem in this case, right? And other times it's not so easy. Perfect. Okay. So you would have an enrollment call, and then the person would either become a client or not. Let's just roll on the side of they become a client. And then they're going to get your content hub. So they're going to get their onboarding email, which is so exciting. And then they're going to get access to your program. Amazing. How did it feel doing enrollment calls?
It was interesting because for my therapy practice, I do a screening call with everybody before we start
Got it.
together. So I came in like, yeah, I've got all these skills and I know how to have these calls. And in some ways, I did have a little bit of a foundation,
Yeah.
but again, very different, right? They're coming in at a very different point. They're not like, yeah, I'm ready, sign me up. They're like, maybe this is kind
Yeah.
of an issue. So it was definitely a learning curve, and it's been very interesting speaking more to the problem earlier on and just having that conversation in a different way. And the guidance around that has been incredibly helpful because it's true. Like I was speaking way past that at first. Like I was talking about the stress and I was talking about like the relationship issues, and sometimes it resonated and sometimes people were like, Erinn, like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I had to backtrack to say, oh, okay, you're right. It's just that you don't want to have sex. You're feeling guilty about it. Like that's where we need to start.
Right. Yeah. You're feeling guilty. You're lying. You're making up excuses. Like, and then you build on, can you see how this is going to affect your relationship in 6 months from now? And then, right. And it's like that build.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go into your program content hub.
Do you want the back end or the like the member view?
What the members see, I think. If you have it, there we go. Yeah. So this is so Erinn chose the feminine mood board. I can already tell. And so this is the content hub. It's very simple. It's very plain because nobody cares about your thumbnails. Your thumbnail images are not what gets people results. So we use the templates that we've given to you. So just hit start course. Mm-hmm. So you have a welcome video there, and then you can go into part 2, myths about you know what, and setting yourself up for success. And so this is how clients would work through Erinn's program. And so I think it's really important to note that when you work with us inside of Zero to Clients, you are the subject matter expert. As you know, we are not experts in sex therapy. We are experts in helping Erinn, as she just said, have better enrollment conversations, right? So whereas Erinn knows the questions to ask her patients, we know the questions to ask our clients to pull out the information that we need so she can have a higher converting enrollment conversation, because it is a skill that she doesn't have yet, right? And that is she is learning, right? So I think it's really important to make that distinction that you, as the professional, you know the subject matter. You're going to create the part 2 and the part 3 and the module 4 and the module 5. And we're going to look at it and we're going to go, oh, there's not really any action tasks here because we're looking at it from a totally different lens. And that's why having this relationship really, really works, because you bring your expertise and we bring ours, and then we co-create what you're going to use to be able to transform lives.
Well, and can I just comment on that for a second?
Yeah.
That is
You can
something
go ahead. You can stop sharing. That's okay. You can stop sharing.
oh, okay. That is something that I think was so helpful in this process, because going into it, I'm like, yeah, I have all this knowledge, I have all the like these ideas, but I had zero like know-how with what to do with that. I'm like, I have all these wonderful ideas and I want to create this course and catch people earlier, but how to actually make that happen? And once I like saw the structure and here's what you start with and here's how you build on it, it was a lot more tangible and a lot less overwhelming, because at first I was like, I don't even know where to start with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And that's real. Like, why would you know where to start? That's not how we were taught, right? Whether you're a therapist or a nutritionist or a yoga teacher, it doesn't matter. We weren't taught this way. And you know, our profession of alternative health and coaching has advanced faster than our professions have advanced, right? In that sense, where now there's all of this opportunity, and we're really, it's like we're really having to go back to school and relearn how to be our profession in this day and age. And I think that's the thing that's so scary to people. It's like, you know, none of us expected this. You know, like the people that are just coming out of school now, they know they need to be on Instagram. It's not a question.
It's a whole different world.
You know what I mean? Like it's not a
Yeah.
question about it. They, you know, like there's a 23-year-old who just graduated from whatever they graduated from, you know, a 25-year-old, like they've already, you know, gone through their whole like late teens, early 20s with the internet and like being online and being in a digital era. But like us who are not 25, right? We're not 25. We had a profession, you know, before all of this sort of took off, right? Where now we're like, oh, okay, now we have to sort of relearn how to be a professional in a digital era. And this is how to do it, right?
Yeah, it's so different.
Mm-hmm. It's different, but it's not impossible. I think that's the point, right?
Well, and it's different, but you just need to know where to start and like get some guidance around that. That like
Yeah.
it's obviously doable, but knowing where to like get your like dip your toe in the water, if you will, right?
Yes.
Like that's all you need. And then you can start rolling.
Yeah. And clearly, you know, you can do it even if you're a sex therapist with, you know, a banned word that you're not allowed to say anywhere.
Constantly being censored. Like this is part of the problem.
Yeah, you're constantly being censored, and coming up with creative ways to do it is, you know, that's something that you'll have to have that workaround, always, right? Bleeping out words in your content. Yeah.
Yeah. It has helped me be a little bit more creative and funny about it though. And I think that's good. I think humor goes a long way with this topic.
Yeah, I think we chatted about that. I'm like, you need to have like code words with your community where they know exactly what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Um, in like the captions of your content and whatnot, so they know what to replace. Like it's your own little language with your community, which I think would be great.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, thank you for this. Thank you
absolutely.
for taking the time to share. And thank you to everybody for watching, and we will chat soon. Bye.